Hi everyone, and I'm so glad to be part of this special exhibit opening for the Hammond Virtual Museum opening on July 4th. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the history of This Land Is Your Land, the song that Phil Wiggins is going to be playing today also. Woody wrote This Land Is Your Land on February 23rd in 1940. He had just arrived into New York from a cross-country trip from Los Angeles. He stayed for a week at a friend of his house. His friend was Will Geer, the actor, who many years later played Grandpa Walton in the TV show. He stayed with Will about a week on the couch, and then he was able to get enough money from busking around town to get a little flophouse room on 43rd Street, 6th Avenue. The place was called the Hanover House Hotel. And the funny thing is that Woody didn't have a guitar with him at the time, and he borrowed Will's wife's guitar. Her name was Herdegear. So it was actually on that guitar that he wrote This Land Is Your Land at Hanover House. He had only been there about a week, and he started writing songs about his first impressions of New York City. One of the songs was called Women's Hats, where he talked about all the strange hats that these New York gals, very fashionable hats, were wearing with feathers and fruits coming out of them and all that stuff. He also wrote that week a song called Government Road, about what it was like traveling around the country on the roads that were not well paved and were very hard to get around, and asking the government to help build some beautiful government roads. Another song you probably know that he wrote the same week was Jesus Christ. And he says that he was looking out of a window at this flop house, Hanover House, and he saw a guy with a long beard and a kind of raggedy clothing. And he said, it looked very much like pictures of Jesus Christ that he had seen, paintings of Jesus Christ, kind of with a long thing on and long beard, long hair. And he said, God, I wonder if that was Jesus Christ today walking down the streets of New York, what would they do to him? They'd probably give him the same treatment for saying to the rich, give your goods to the poor. So as you can tell, it was a very fruitful week at Hanover House that he was there. He wrote This Land Is Your Land, like I said, on February 23rd. And I think it has a lot of different layers of understanding the song. On one very simple level, I always saw it as a journal that he wrote of what it was like. He had just traveled across the country, and he had lots of different impressions of what he saw. He saw wheat fields waving. He had seen dust clouds rolling. He had seen valleys. He had seen diamond deserts. He had seen churches where people were going to try to get some food at soup kitchens. He saw signs that said, no trespassing private property. So all of these images he incorporated into the verses of This Land Is Your Land, again, while sitting in this flop house in New York City on 43rd Street. By the way, the flop house was right almost directly next door to Town Hall. If you've ever been to Town Hall, you know what I mean. It's kind of the door right next door to Town Hall. So, on one level, it's like a journal entry. And it wasn't until the 1950s that Pete Seeger took the song and started singing it at all the camps and schools around the country. At the time, Pete Seeger was blacklisted and couldn't do any television, radio, or concerts in the United States. The only work he could get was in kindergartens and camps, summer camps and kids' schools. So of course he taught all the kids This Land Is Your Land, and the kids really liked it. It was easy to sing, it had a nice chorus, and over the next 25 years, just about every kid in America was able to learn This Land Is Your Land, and which is why we all know it today. And it's always been kind of a sweet irony to me that so many of those kids that heard it in the 50s became a lot of our activists during the civil rights movement. They became our protesters during the Vietnam War years. They became politicians, presidents, all kinds of things. Speaking of presidents, it was really wonderful the moment that Obama, at his inauguration concert, was serenaded by Pete and Springsteen and the beautiful gospel choir with an American Indian percussionist singing with them, inaugurating the first African American president of the United States. And for me, that was just one of the most beautiful moments of my life. First of all, as the cameras panned the audience, everyone knew the words. I mean, what's another song in America where 1 million people can sing along to that song with Pete Seeger? So that was stunning. And I remember at the moment looking up and saying to my father, "So that's why you wrote this song." It felt like the most perfect meeting where the stars just created this beautiful constellation of our vision of America, of what it can be and what we must keep visioning for ourselves. So being I'm talking to a lot of artists, you understand what I'm talking about. We have to keep the vision, multicolored, beautiful vision alive, so that, what do they say, if you see it in your mind, it will become. And I think that's what's going to happen in our country. So enjoy your wonderful art opening tonight. And to Phil Wiggins, thank you for singing "This Land Is Your Land." That's my story.